Gorakata Damdaya Nagragramatadine. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshnaya Bhutale Srimate Gopi Parandanadase Iti Namine. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyatya Deshatarine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha paritanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girimit kripatamaham bande Shri Guruntarnam kritamande Paramananda Madhav Shri Chaitanyeshwaram Katanchara Smriti Yasmin Dushkaram Bhavet Vismrite Pritam Syat Shri Chaitanya. Okay, so Madhi, can you share screen and also read?
Yes, sure, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Prabhuji, we have to start with this new chapter, 28.
Yes, Vansh, yeah.
Relationship with the Supreme. Lord Chaitanya rejected the statement cited by Ramanand Rai from the Vishnu Puran because the Lord wished to reject a class of philosophers known as Mimamsakyas. The followers of Karma Mimamsa philosophy teach that God is subject to one's work. Their conclusion is that if one works nicely, God is bound to give good results. Thus, from the statement of Vishnu Puran cited by Ramanand Rai, one might conclude that Vishnu, the Supreme Lord, has no independence but is bound to award a certain kind of result to the worker. Such a dependent God becomes subject to the worshipper who accepts the Supreme Lord as both impersonal and personal as he wishes. Actually, the Karma Mimamsa philosophy stresses the impersonal feature of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Because Lord Chaitanya did not like such impersonalism, he rejected it. Tell me if you know something beyond this conception of the absolute, supreme absolute truth, Lord Chaitanya said. Ramanand Rai understood the purpose of Lord Chaitanya and, after stating that it is better to give Krishna the results of fruitive activities, he quoted a verse from Bhagavad Gita 9.27. Yat karosi yat ashnasi yat juhosi tadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurusva mat arpanam. O son of Kunti, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you sacrifice, whatever you give away, and whatever austerity you undergo to achieve some goal, everything should be dedicated to my service. There is a similar passage in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.36, which states that one should submit everything, all the results of the fruitive activities one performs with body, speech, mind, senses, intelligence, soul, and the modes of nature to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan. Lord Chaitanya, however, also rejected this second statement, saying, if you know of something higher, state it. Offering everything to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as enjoined by the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, is better than impersonally making the Supreme Lord subject to our work, but it is still short of surrendering to the Supreme Lord. A worker's identification with material existence cannot be changed without proper guidance. Such fruitive activity will continue one's material existence. A worker is simply instructed here to offer the results of his work to the Supreme Lord, but there is no information given to enable one to get out of the material entanglement. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya rejected this proposal.
This is a very important point because this is a very commonly quoted verse, and devotees understand this to be devotional service. You could say it is a very preliminary level of devotional service, in the sense that the focus is on the activity, focus is on the activity. See, when we progress in Krishna consciousness, we are eventually, we are supposed to be situated in that state where we see the activities themselves as useless, ultimately. Basically, it is like, how do you say, we are in a prison, So the goal of the prisoner is not to think how to make my prison life comfortable. How I can get a bed, good mattress, and how I can get some whatever, So that is not the goal. It's very confined existence. So if the prisoner thinks that, okay, let me make these kind of arrangements by worship and whatever, by dharmic means, or I mean, of course, the prisoner already, but I mean, that itself is something, because we've got this material body because of our sins. So it is like an imprison, it's like a prison suit, you could say. But if one thinks that the goal of life is to obtain good things within the prison by pleasing the Lord, that is the understanding. So what is the how intelligent that can that person be considered to be? That person cannot be considered to be an intelligent person, because he's trying to make his life in prison comfortable by pleasing the Supreme Lord. The focus is not on surrendering the Supreme Lord and getting out of this whole concept of prison life. So therefore, yes, it is better than not accepting God at all. But it is still insufficient. That is the understanding. Any thoughts on that, if you have? Devotees can sometimes get trapped. Yes, Vasuji.
Yes, Prabhuji, I understand. I mean, like the focus doesn't remain on the fact that you will, as a soul, to release yourself from this birth and death entangle, and to to want to go to the abode where we actually belong, as servants of the Lord, as a will, as the desire only to serve the Lord. But it remains to be how to make yourself comfortable in this existing situation, in the existing world.
Correct. So, see, the point here is that this is a very common thing that has happened. Not a common thing. This is something that has happened in the course of ISKCON's development over time. Well, some people can question whether this is development or not development. But what happened was, when ISKCON began, it began with the concept of rejecting the world. I mean, not that it began like that, but devotees who had not understood the philosophy properly and clearly emphasized rejection of the world. So which created a lot of socially dysfunctional individuals and families and children, whatever. I mean, children are part of families. So whereas because of that, the the consequence was that devotees began to accept material life. It's like, one is rejection, the other is acceptance. So for rejection also, we have enough philosophy in the teachings of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. And for acceptance also, we have, for example, this verse, Yat Karoshi, Yat Juhoshi. So both of them can produce. See, okay, you could say the first one produced dysfunctional individuals and families. The second one can produce, I mean, at least whatever extent, functional persons or functional families, but still it will be dysfunctional spiritual life. So that is the problem. So we are not meant to either. That is why this concept is very clear. It has to be understood very carefully. We are not meant to either reject the world or accept the world. Because both acceptance and rejections are based on one's conception of what is in it for me. You know, if I think that this is miserable, I'll think of rejecting. If I think it is enjoyable, I think of accepting it. So this the thought process involved is what is in it for me. If I feel that this is a problem, then I think of rejecting it. If I think that this is nice, then I think of accepting it. So both are based on what I think and how I feel. No, so instead of that, we should shift the focus on what does the Lord want? How do we understand what the Lord wants? We understand it through what the pure devotees want. So if in the process of executing our duties, we experience distress, we accept the distress. We experience the happiness, we accept the happiness also. We are not like some pleasure denying pseudo spiritualists kind of thing. You know, so we are not saying that only suffering is the essence of life. We are not saying that. We are neither saying enjoying is the essence of life. We are not saying any of this. We are saying accepting whatever the Lord gives is the essence of life. That is the point. So when we undergo some distress, we just need to tolerate it. When we experience happiness, it is not that we have to reject what is coming. Just like we can't reject which distress is coming, we can't reject what happiness is coming also. Both of them come on their own accord. So accept the distress, accept the happiness. That is the understanding. If we do not have the concept of accepting, then we are in trouble. We have to accept both. Whatever comes off its own accord. So it's not that we accept only distress and reject whatever happiness comes. Or that we only accept happiness and try to reject this distress and try to keep making solutions for that. There are no solutions for distress. Like today, the guru industry is huge because gurus come and try to solve the problems of this world. But there cannot be a better problem solver than Krishna, who created the world. And what is his solution? He's saying that you cannot solve all the problems of this world, but you just tolerate. That's it. Heat and cold, you cannot. Just tolerate it. You can't do anything about it. So whether it is distress or whether it is happiness, you just should accept. We are not feeling guilty of accepting either distress or accepting either happiness, because they're all coming by the will of the Lord. So we take it, okay. The distress is also the Lord's mercy. The happiness we are getting is also Lord's mercy. But the focus is that we are neither interested in rejecting nor interested in accepting. We are interested in whatever comes by the Lord's will. We are very happy with that. That is the understanding. So this concept which is spoken about here is all in terms of one's own self. You know, one wants to sanitize what one is doing. Therefore, one is doing all these things. So we are not trying to sanitize our work. We are trying to please the Lord. And to please the Lord, we know that we have to sanitize our work. That is what we are doing. You know, so we are not trying to sanitize our work so that we can enjoy better. We are trying to surrender the Supreme Lord. What does the Lord wants? Okay, the Lord wants me to sanitize my work. The Lord wants me to work for Him, and whatever work I am doing for Him should be properly dharmic and offered. You know, but first of all, the thing is focuses on what does the Lord want me to do. Okay. Any thoughts on this?
Probably not. This is absolutely understandable what you said, that whatever is destined to come and whatever, so we have to tolerate the situation, because firstly it is our karma which has been given to us, and it's ordained by the Lord. But on a different tangent, I was just thinking, in accepting and rejecting situations in our life, as you were saying, that we tend to, as devotees, we tend to choose between, okay, not really mingling too much with the material people, and choosing to be more with the, the devotees, then that is also, if one does that, that is also in accordance with what would please the Lord.
That's correct.
And somehow we are, uh, because the material world doesn't really offer us much happiness, so you can say that maybe on a selfish end, if all on your own also you think, um, on a selfish end, because the material world doesn't offer you that happiness any longer, you and here in spirituality, in uh, you do engage, and you kind of, uh, the satisfaction, the happiness, the contentment that you get engaging, uh, in the shastric uh, learnings, and being in the association of the gurus, we find that it is definitely giving us much more pleasure.
Correct.
Like, for example, um, I had to go for a wedding tomorrow, a friend's wedding, Rishikesh, and I think Anandita Mataji, we were planning to go to Vrindavan. So, since no other date was falling appropriate to go, only the wedding days that I had to go, I didn't take me time to even think of rejecting the idea of going for a wedding. I said, I'm not going to go for the wedding. I'll go to Vrindavan. You know.
Yeah.
So this rejection and acceptance does come in, but the inherent point was also not only the pleasure of the Lord, but was also the pleasure I would derive in being in the sadhu sang. So is that correct, or is that also?
Yeah, I understood what you're saying. I understood what I'm saying. But see, that's exactly why I'm saying that we are not rejecting pleasure which comes in the service of the Lord. The question is it the right thing to do? That is what determines. If it is the right thing to do, why you have to reject that pleasure of going to Vrindavan? Right? So you're just fortunate, that's all. Like, for example, Guru Maharaj wrote a letter to Prabhupada saying that I like to live in, like, it's okay. Like, Prabhupada gave him the order to live in Mayapur and serve in Mayapur. But Mayapur is a place where he liked to live anyway. Okay. So that is a great fortune. That you like to associate. I mean, see, first of all, liking to associate with others, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what I'm saying. We are not pleasure denying people. We see, the point is, are you placing your idea of pleasure above the plan of the Lord? The best example is Uddhava, one of the greatest devotees of the Lord. I mean, he's a very, very exalted personality, Uddhava. So, Uddhava, when he visits Vrindavan, he gets completely overwhelmed by seeing how much the Vrajavasis love Krishna, especially the gopis. So then he prays that, may I be born as a creeper on the outskirts of Vrindavan. So when these exalted souls, especially the gopis, walk, they'll trample me under their foot so that I can get the dust from their lotus feet. Now he has such a great appreciation for the residents of Vrindavan. That is where his heart is, that let me become a creeper uh, on the outskirts of Vrindavan. However, when Krishna was leaving the planet, Uddhava was with him, and Krishna instructed Uddhava, the residents of Badrikashram did not get my association while I was on the planet. But you are as good as me. So after I leave the planet, please go and give your association to the residents of Badrikashram. What does Uddhava do? Uddhava doesn't think, oh my God, Badrikashram, cold place in the Himalayas. And it could be far less fascinating than going to Vrindavan and to be serving in the, or to render some service to the residents of Vrindavan. Because that's where his heart is, right? But what is most attractive to the devotee is not not that. Even more attractive than for Uddhava, even more attractive than the thought of going to Vrindavan was the thought of trying to please the Lord. This is the pure devotee. That if it is the Lord's plan, I will do it. There's nothing wrong in trying to that the pleasure that you get in the association of devotees. The question is, if the Lord has a higher plan, He wants you to go to whatever Khan market or Sarojini Nagar market, wherever, and then distribute some books. And you're thinking it is too cold. I can sit in a car or and visit Vrindavan and have beautiful darshan of Krishna Balaram at that time. If you think like that, then that pleasure is not considered. It's still pleasure only, but it's not. This is not
as high
desirable
as
pleasure. It is not desirable pleasure. Yeah, the desirable pleasure is you go and distribute books in that place and please the Lord. That is desirable pleasure.
Yes, understood. Thank you so much.
And in general, we are encouraged that, see, we are fortunate, no? For example, let's say if you have an opportunity to skip the association of non-devotees and have an alternate opportunity where this thing, and we should jump at it. That's why I'm saying we should not think at that point whether is this pleasure not, is it right? Question is, would the Lord want this or not? That's the real thing that we have to consider. Not whether we are going to feel pleasure or not. That cannot be the consideration. You understood, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
so if you're feeling pleasure, so what? Fantastic. Even if it is driven by pleasures, doesn't matter. Check whether it is what the Lord wants or not. So there's nothing wrong in that. As long as if you are driven by pleasure and it is in alignment with what the Lord wants, fine. Fantastic. Then you're very fortunate. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Prabhuji.
I didn't know that weddings happen in Rishikesh in January. It's very cold.
Yes. So they actually, this family, the son who's getting married, he is a Sadhguru's devotee, disciple or follower, and he wants to get married at the Ganga Ghat, by the Ganga Ghat. So actually a spiritual family, and they're all all sattvic food and everything is there. So it's a spiritual family otherwise, but of Sadhguru. But the attraction here is much more.
Okay. Yeah, of course, Vrindavan is Vrindavan. Anandita Mataji has saved you. Or rather,
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
She's giving you a better alternate.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Pranam devotees.
Yes, Anandita Mataji.
Hare Krishna. I'm so sorry, Prabhuji. I cannot switch on my video. I'm just finishing because the packers would be coming tomorrow. Actually, I told each one of them to accompany me to Vrindavan or to take me to Vrindavan before I leave. So, unfortunately, my mother-in-law is not well. Everything was actually, she has changed her marriage plan, and many others, they have sacrificed so many things so that they can take me to Vrindavan. But unfortunately, I don't know what is Radharani's plan. So, can't say anything. So, Shushmita Mataji, if there is scope, you can go to the marriage. Because
if there is what? If there is
still the scope, you can go, because my plan is not fixed. I cannot tell even by tomorrow.
When are you leaving? When are you leaving India?
Actually, I was supposed to leave on 29, but just because she and Bhaiya both are not well, so Vikas said that we will go on first. We cannot leave them in this condition and go.
Okay. Who's not well? Your daughter?
No. My mother-in-law and his brother.
Okay.
Both of them stays in the same society.
Okay.
So the program got changed from 29 to 1st. Actually, 29 was for sure, but seeing their condition, he said, we cannot go like this.
So what is the difficulty with going on Saturday to Vrindavan? Don't know.
She has 103 fever and she lives with
Oh,
me. She cannot even wake up. From last 2 days. I'm trying to serve her on bed. So, and I'm the only one to manage all these things. So how can I leave her like this?
okay. Sunday is Ekadashi, isn't it, in Delhi?
Yeah, it's Ekadashi. We plan to go to Vrindakon, Kadam, Ter Kadam, not to Vrindavan, but to these places.
And then and come back without visiting Vrindavan. Is it?
Actually, Vrindavan on weekdays is very rushy. And the next day is 26 January. So these
Okay.
days, Vrindavan is just like crazy, especially on the weekends.
Yeah, the weekends are tough.
Mm. But Nanpatni Mataji cannot go in weekdays.
Yeah.
She is working.
Mataji
All
will
right.
pray.
We'll come back to this topic a little later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Um, Jyoti, you had a question.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Yeah, I had a question. In the last class, you had told me one should according to their physical nature, they should uh, uh, like uh, their
Be
profession
engaged.
in
Yes.
the engage
Yeah.
like that. So
Yeah.
there is the thin line difference between to not get deviated like towards the material nature in the engagement. So how do we know that okay we are doing it correctly?
In the hospital, a patient is monitored by the doctor. No?
Yes.
So you need to be monitored by those who have experience. First of all, you have to be engaged by the diet. Your lifestyle should be prescribed by a doctor only. No, otherwise you cannot recover properly, right? So so your prescription should be written by a experienced devotee who can also monitor your progress.
Okay.
We cannot do it on our own. Uh,
Yes.
See, in the absence of any such thing, like sometimes people are very remote places, they don't have association of devotees, whatever, it may be very difficult sometimes in very rare circumstances. Uh, there's something called very rare. Rare is something, it's rare. Okay. So, in those circumstances, one has to do the one's best, depend on the Paramatma and the heart and do one's best. We don't know whether it's the best or always, because sometimes it could be the mind, sometimes it could be Paramatma, whatever. But one has to still do one's best in those circumstances. But that is the rare circumstances. But the usual thing is that there'll always be devotees who are experienced, whom you can repose some faith in. You need to examine devotees and repose faith in them and then listen. I mean, to receive some guidance. So then you will be able to know whether you're making proper progress or not.
Okay. And my second question was like regarding what you were explaining in this today's class. So is it how it is told there is nothing good and bad, everything is on the absolute platform which pleases Krishna, so it is like that?
Correct. No,
Okay.
nothing is good or bad means everything for sense gratification is bad. Everything for Krishna is good.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's why Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's no such thing as good and bad in this world. Everything is bad. And when he says that, it means that the attempt to utilize any facility in this world for one's enjoyment is all bad. Even though some may be called dharmic, some may be called adharmic, everything. In that, of course, definitely dharma is better than adharma. Okay, there's no
Yes.
doubt in that. There's a gradation, but still, the whole thing falls within the category of what do you call that? It is not something which is worth pursuing. You understood, right?
Yes. Yes.
Dharma is obviously better pursue. It is obviously better to pursue dharma than adharma. Okay, but when it comes to bhakti, bhakti is far superior than both dharma and adharma.
Yes. Okay. Understood. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
And what? Sorry, what was the question actually? I just slipped my mind. What is the question?
Yeah, question was like, is it like, actually, how we read in Srimad Bhagavatam and Gita, how it is mentioned, like, actually, all like exactly above the good and bad definition, things are on the absolute platform, and that should be something which pleases Krishna. So I was just confirming that, like, that whatever you were explaining, is it like this only? That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, I mean, yes, the idea is, the point is you need to engage under the guidance of someone superior.
Yes, yes.
Then that will make everything all right.
Actually, when we are engaging ourselves also, the consciousness may differ, right? Like, suppose if somebody is engaging themselves in the devotional service also, or in any type of occupation also, it is the consciousness with which they are engaging. Some may engage in some may try to engage in Krishna conscious way, but may get attracted to the material nature of that occupation, and some may have more insights into the Krishna conscious way of doing that service. So how should we our approach be exactly? Because even after engaging, the consciousness may differ.
I understood. So, look, this is the difference between the process of bhakti and the process of other processes. Okay. So, our process is to keep trying to please the Lord, keep the focus on that. Like Prabhupada sometimes would encourage his disciples, you're all Americans. Come on. Being Americans, you should do something wonderful. Okay. So isn't that a bodily concept of life? Absolutely. Prabhupada or other
Yes.
places say, no, consider yourself American, Indian, all this is like cow, ass, and all these kind of things, right? From the Bhagavatam. Prabhupada condemn all these things. Why is Prabhupada saying you're all Americans? You need to do something wonderful. So the point is not to get caught up in all these things, whether I'm attached to this, whether this is that is that. Why think about all these things? Instead of that, just focus on whatever you need to do to serve the Lord. That basically you're not going to do any work without some end result in mind, right? For example, suppose you're doing some nice, you're doing a painting for Krishna, correct? You're not going to be whatever. You have that end result in mind. I need to come out with a nice picture for Krishna. So whether you are sitting in the AC, whether you are not sitting in the AC, whether you're using this paint, that way, I mean, why to get caught up in all those things? Just focus on the fact that my goal is to come out with a nice picture for Krishna. That's all.
Yes.
Otherwise, you'll get into paralysis by analysis.
Yes.
You understood, right?
Yes, yes,
So keep
understood.
keep it focused on the final end result. Although we are not result conscious, but I mean, we are not attached to the result, but we are driving towards the result in everything that we do, right?
Yes. Yes, Prabhuji.
We are trying to, I mean, we are very keenly interested in attaining love of God. There's no doubt in that. It's a clearly defined goal, right? So every activity has a clearly defined goal. But whether we get it or not is Krishna's will. Therefore, we have the philosophy, don't be attached to it. But we are driving towards the goal, no?
Our intention should be to serve
Excel.
that goal.
Excel.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Excel means I want to offer this to the Lord in the best possible manner, that Krishna will be pleased, right?
Yes.
Both externally and internally. But
Yes.
one should keep that. We cannot keep analyzing, okay, now I should think like this, now I should think like that. It can't work like that. Just keep chanting Hare Krishna, your consciousness will get purified. That should be the focus. Let me chant attentively. Let me perform my service attentively. That's all.
Yes, Prabhuji. And I had one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
If we are going for any service, like for some many services can be it can be very safe and sound, but for some services, like we need to risk, okay, we are not able, our health is not able to support, and or something, or we don't have financial backup for that, and something can be there for doing some service. So should we just go on doing the service, or should we see the pros and cons and then decide to do the service?
Give me an example.
Example.
I know I'm putting you on the spot, but then sometimes things become much easier when you give an example. Otherwise, the answer also will come.
Like suppose somebody wants to go for book distribution in Kumbh Mela. Go and distribute books in Kumbh Mela, but they don't have necessary facilities to go and serve there. They don't have that. They don't know whether they'll be able to do it, and that safety point of view also they don't know. So they should just take the risk and go and do book distribution there, or they should, okay, it is not logically, it is not setting that, okay, the such and such means that backup is not there, okay, then they should not take that risk like that.
So that's what I'm saying. So again, we're coming back to the same point. From where did we get that instruction to go and do that?
Okay.
So if we got an instruction, then the person who's instructed should be able to say, right?
Yes.
That person should be able to take care also.
Yes.
So we should always, if we are trying to figure it out on our own, then we need to ask someone, what should I do?
Yes.
And then not use. See, the point is, the end of reasoning and logic is you go and ask somebody who's experienced. That is the end of reasoning and logic. Huh? It is not that after you ask again you apply logic and reasoning to that. No. End means does not mean blind. For example, Prabhupada gives the example that in the court of law, lawyers present arguments before the judge. Now, the learned judge or the honorable judge, he will weigh the arguments and he will present a conclusion.
Yes, okay? Yes.
Now, once a conclusion is given, then a lawyer cannot say, no, but then this was not there, that, there's nothing. That's all. This is the conclusion.
Yes,
that is called, that has to be followed according to law. Finish.
Yes. Okay.
So, like that, you need to have, I mean, when I'm not saying you, generally I'm saying when someone has this kind of a situation, they need to consult somebody superior and advanced, and then, I mean, you present all the rational arguments, whatever. Finally, whatever conclusion is given by that experienced person has to be done. That's all. If the person says, go ahead and do it, whatever, this will happen like that, whatever. The other person says, no, don't go ahead, do it. This is not going to work out, or this is too risky, or whatever. Okay, fine, fair enough, like that.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
We don't apply logic and reasoning to the conclusion because all that has finished. And the person who is applying also has got logic and reasoning. But I mean, of course, ultimately it's Krishna's direction that the person is going to give. But they also weighed everything and the final conclusion is given. Then no more argument.
Yes, right. Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay, Mataji, please go ahead.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
We had to start from here, this route. Yeah. So after having his suggestions rejected twice, Ramanand proposed that one should forsake his occupational activities altogether and by such detachment rise to the transcendental plane. In other words, he recommended complete renunciation of worldly life. To support this proposal, he cited evidence from Srimad Bhagavatam 11.11.32, wherein the Lord says, in the scriptures, I have described the ritualistic principles and the way one can become situated in devotional service by giving them up. That is the highest perfection of religion. Ramanand also quoted Lord Krishna's similar statement in Bhagavad Gita 18.66. Sarva dharman pratyajya mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshisyami mahasucha. Give up all kinds of religiousness and just surrender unto me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I shall protect you from all sinful reactions, and you will have nothing to be aggrieved over. Lord Chaitanya also rejected this third proposal of Ramanand Rai, for he wanted to demonstrate that renunciation in itself is not sufficient. There must be positive engagement. Without positive engagement, the highest perfectional stage cannot be attained. Generally, there are two kinds of philosophers in the renounced order of life. the goal of one is nirvana and the goal of the other is the impersonal Brahman effulgence. Such philosophers cannot imagine that they can reach beyond nirvana and the Brahman effulgence to the Vaikuntha planets of the spiritual sky. Because in simple renunciation, there is no conception of spiritual planets and spiritual activities, Lord Chaitanya rejected this third proposal. Ramanand Rai then cited more evidence from Bhagavad Gita 18.54. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na sochati na kankshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. When the cultivation of knowledge a person realizes himself to be non-different from the supreme absolute truth, he becomes joyful and is freed from all kinds of lamentation and material desires. At that time, he perfects his Brahman realization by seeing everyone on the same spiritual level. Such Brahman realization can elevate one to the transcendental stage of devotional service. Ramanand Rai first suggested devotional service with renunciation of the fruits of one's work, but here he suggests that devotional service with full knowledge and spiritualization is superior. Lord Chaitanya, however, also rejected this proposal because simply by renouncing material results in Brahman realization, one does not realize the spiritual world and spiritual activities. Although there is no material contamination when one attains the stage of Brahman realization, in that stage one is still not perfectly pure because there is no positive engagement in spiritual activity. Because it is still on the mental plane, it is external. The pure living entity is not liberated unless he is completely engaged in spiritual activity. As long as one is absorbed in impersonal thoughts or in thoughts of the void, one's entrance into the eternal blissful life of knowledge is not complete. When spiritual knowledge is not complete, one will be hindered in his attempt to cleanse the mind of all material variegatedness. Thus, imperialists are frustrated in their attempts to make the mind void by artificial meditation. It is very difficult to void the mind of all material conceptions. In the Bhagavad Gita 12.5, it is stated that those who indulge in such impersonal meditation find it very difficult to make spiritual advancement. In addition, whatever state they do attain is not complete liberation. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya rejected them. After his fourth proposal was rejected, Ramanand Rai said that devotional service rendered without any attempt at mental speculation or cultivation of knowledge is the highest stage of perfection. To support this view, he gave evidence from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.3, wherein Lord Brahma tells the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Jnane prayasam utpasya namanta eva जीवन्ति सन मुखारितम भवाध्य वार्ताम स्थाने स्थिता श्रुति गताम तनुवान मनोभेर ये प्रयासो जितो अपि असि ते स्त्रीलोक्याम. My dear Lord, one should give up monistic speculation and the cultivation of knowledge altogether. He should begin his spiritual life in devotional service by receiving information of your activities from a realized devotee of the Lord. If one cultivates his spiritual life by adhering to these principles and keeping himself on the honest path in life, then although your lordship is never conquered, you become conquered by the devotee following such a process. When Ramanand Rai presented this proposal, Lord Chaitanya at once said, yes, this is right. In other words, Lord Chaitanya agreed that this process conforms to his mission. In this age, there is no possibility of acquiring spiritual knowledge by discharging one's duty in the Varna Ashram Dharma system, by devotional service mixed with fruitive activities, by renunciation or by devotional service mixed with the culture of knowledge. Because most people are fallen and because there is no time to elevate them by a gradual process, the best course, according to Lord Chaitanya, is to let them remain in whatever condition they are in, but to engage them in hearing of the activities of the Supreme Lord, as those activities are explained in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. The transcendental messages of the scriptures should be heard from the lips of realized souls. In this way, a person may continue to live in whatever condition he is in and still make spiritual progress. Thus, one can surely advance and fully realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although Lord Chaitanya accepted these principles, he still requested Ramanand Rai to further explain advanced devotional service. Thus, Lord Chaitanya gave Ramanand Rai a chance to discuss gradual advancement from the principles of Varnashram Dharma, the four castes and the four orders of spiritual life, through the offering of the results of fruitive activity and through the speculative discussions of spiritual knowledge. Lord Chaitanya rejected all these because in the field of executing pure devotional service, there is very little use of such principles. Without self-realization, such artificial methods of devotional service cannot be accepted as pure devotional service. Self-realized, pure devotional service is completely different from all other kinds of transcendental activity. The highest stage of transcendental activity is always free from all material desires, fruitive efforts, and speculative attempts at knowledge. In the highest stage, one concentrates on the simple, favorable execution of pure devotional service. Ramanand Rai could understand the motive of Lord Chaitanya, and therefore he stated that attainment of pure love of Godhead is the highest perfectional stage. In the Padyavali, there is a very nice verse which is said to be composed by Ramanand Rai himself. The meaning of the verse is, as long as there is hunger in the belly and one feels like eating and drinking, one can become happy by taking various eatables. Similarly, there may be much paraphernalia for worshipping the Supreme Lord, but only when the worship is mixed with pure love of Godhead does it become an actual source of transcendental happiness. Another verse composed by Ramanand Rai states, even after millions and millions of births of pious activities, one cannot achieve a sense of devotional service. But if somehow or other one desires to attain devotional service, the association of a pure devotee will make it possible. Thus, from any available source, one should try to acquire a strong desire to engage in devotional service. In these two verses, Ramanand Rai has described the regulative principles and developed love of Godhead respectively. Lord Chaitanya wanted to bring him to the stage of developed love of Godhead, and he wanted him to speak from that platform. Thus, the discussion between Ramanand Rai and Lord Chaitanya will now proceed on the basis of love of Godhead. If love of Godhead is elevated to personal affinity, it is called Prema Bhakti.
Mataji, I think that this topic we'll take up in the next class because these are very elevated topics. But here, I just wanted to say that sometimes we think that our process is sarvadharman paritejya. I mean, it is true in the sense that yes, but elsewhere we'll see Prabhupada saying that one cannot abruptly give up everything and surrender to the Lord. You know, so technically speaking, our philosophy is this: Jnane prayasa mudapasya namanta eva sanmukaritam bhavadiya varta. That one remains in whatever position one is, but one carefully and attentively hears the messages of Srimad Bhagavatam. And by that, one gradually rises to the platform of love of God. So, yes, we have that, how do you say? Yeah. Sarvadharman Paritejya is what we have in our consciousness, but we are not qualified to abruptly enact it. So what we are qualified, that's why Lord Chaitanya approved this, because it does not create a disturbance. So wherever one is situated, Jnane Prayasa Uddapasya Namantya Eva Sanmukritam Bhavadiya Varta. So this does not involve any abrupt change of one's position. So whatever situation one is in, one needs to what do you call it? Hear the Bhagavatam from the lips of the devotees, and one needs to hear Bhagavatam from the lips of the devotees, and by the process of hearing, one purifies one's heart and one feels encouraged to take up the process of devotional service.
That's true. Yes, Prabhuji. Because if you actually think that, yes, you just give up everything, it's not so easy, it's not so possible. But yes, by duly and regularly listening to the Bhagavatam lectures and, understanding and absorbing what you hear, then you try to implement those learnings in small scales or in small, so gradually you try to, kind of come up scale or elevate yourself from the current,
You're right.
level of
Yes.
this thing.
And the process is
With
very
the
quick.
examples and
The process is very quick because it is very quick and powerful. The process of hearing the Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay. So see, the process is very powerful. The process of hearing Bhagavatam, the process of chanting Hare Krishna is very powerful. So it elevates us very quickly to the platform of elevates us very quickly to come to that stage of Sarvadharman Paritejya. But we can't start with that. And how quick it is depends on one's intensity of practice and one's attitude of practice also. Yes. Yes, Madhuri, please. Sorry, I interrupted you. Please go ahead.
No, Prabhuji. I was just saying the same only. I mean, like, see, we may be reading, like, if all these books that we have today, we are doing it with you. If you just read it, firstly, you half understand. You don't understand it completely. Secondly, the conviction and the faith with which the preacher is presenting the topic reaches us with more force, or with more conviction, so it's absorbed, it can be absorbed with more effect. That's what I mean to say. If we also can read, we can read the books on our own, but when a preacher or a pure devotee is presenting the same knowledge, then the faith and the conviction which they presented, it hits us, that is where it actually makes a mark.
Correct. So you see, what actually is happening there, it is like, see, when we are living in a society, right? When we interact with people, what happens? Our consciousness is interacting with someone else's consciousness. That's what is happening actually. So if we are in the mode of goodness and we interact with the person in the mode of passion, so that passion is going to impact us, for sure. Yeah. So basically, this whole world is a society where there is interaction of consciousness. Okay. And so when you interact with someone who's advanced in Krishna consciousness, it is their consciousness which is impacting you. And if even among preachers also, sometimes what happens is that it may appear you may feel some impact, but it does not necessarily mean that the preacher is situated very purely. If the preacher is situated very purely, what will be the kind of impact that you will feel, that you will experience? The impact that you will experience will be that your attraction for chanting, the attraction for devotional service is increasing, and your attraction for material life is decreasing. That is called actual impact of consciousness when you interact with somebody who's advanced. Otherwise, they may have oratorial skills, or they may have Sanskrit knowledge, or they may have extensive knowledge of scriptures, and so that also will hit, but that is not purity.
Yeah.
That is not purity. That is definitely better than interacting with the karmi and whatever. Also, it will produce it will help you in devotional service. But it is not the extent to which it's going to help, the extent to which it's going to impact, depends on the consciousness, the level of consciousness of the person who's speaking. And how do you test it? Prabhupada says, when you hear a pure devotee, you will feel irresistibly drawn towards Krishna, and you will feel effortlessly detached from material life. So you should feel irresistibly drawn towards Krishna, and you should feel effortlessly detached from material life. So the higher a person is in that, I mean, in terms of advancement, their levels of advancement, the more advanced a devotee is on the platform, and such a person speaks, then you can feel this effect. To the extent that you're feeling, to the extent that you can see, of course, I mean, what is it? If you are sincerely trying to do it, then you'll feel the impact. But it's not that you can just judge the person's advancement just by that. No. What is it? Because sometimes we are blocked. No, the person may be
you have
very
to be a
advanced.
receiver.
Yeah,
you have to be a good receiver as well.
Important. Receptivity is important. But even though you are not receptive, still the very nature of association of a pure devotee is such that still you will still get impacted.
Impact on you. Yeah. Impact.
Still, but not as strongly as what do you call it? As when you receive it, when you have the attitude of wanting to receive it, submissiveness.
You have to be wired to closer to that frequency also.
You don't have to be. No. That is a totally wrong concept. You don't have to be wired to anything. You just have to be Prabhupada, very simple. Like once Prabhupada was in Philadelphia, when he arrived in the airport, he finished giving his interview to all the reporters, and then one reporter came huffing and panting because he got late, and he put a microphone in front of Prabhupada's mouth, and he said, he asked some sophisticated, I mean, like, how these questions are constructed. Can you explain to me, Swamiji, what your philosophy is all about? Something like that. And Prabhupada replied in one sentence. Prabhupada said, our philosophy is speaking about the absolute truth. Okay. And he said, if you are sincere, you will take to it. That's all. This is the reply to that question. So the point that I'm trying to make is, no, you don't have to be wired to anything. You just have to be sincere. That's it. So so you can be if you're submissive and sincere, to the extent to which you can rise in your consciousness is cannot be estimated. That is the only qualification that we need to have. Then we can rise to an extent in our consciousness far beyond what we can imagine. So there's nothing, no wiring needed, no pre-qualification, nothing.
Right.
Just sincerity. Yeah.
Yes, I understand. So is the sincerity and the dedication that is required?
Yeah.
I mean, commitment.
Dedication may come with time, because dedication doesn't come instantly. Sincerity can be instant, because sincerity is a feature of the soul. dedication, I mean, because mind is, I mean, hardwired into so many other things. So we may have to undergo some rewiring and make it aligned with Krishna consciousness. So you need to be sincere, then you will become dedicated with time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Jyoti, you have a question, or is it from the last time?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I have one more question. It's not related to this class. Like, it's just general question. Can I ask?
Yeah.
When we are chanting for some particular person, what happens? Like, should we chant for some another person, like anybody? Should we chant for another, like anybody like that?
There's nothing called chanting for someone. You know, it is like, how do you say, you're chanting for the Lord only, actually. Okay. So you may chant for the Lord. You may chant more for the Lord sometimes, so that, like Prabhupada said, because when he was sick, he said, you can pray to the Lord, have kirtans. If he so desires, then my master may be able to. So the chanting is for the Lord only. But it has a specific prayer to the Lord, that if you so desire, then may my master be cured. In that sense, yes, it is. But it's not for the person. It is basically for the Lord. With that, may you be kindly inclined towards this, like that. This prayer.
Suppose if somebody's not well, so we can keep that intention and chant some extra rounds regarding keeping that.
Yeah. Correct. So when it says chant for the person, it doesn't mean chant for the person. Chanting is always for the Lord only.
Yes. And suppose
Like,
if
for example, see, there is sometimes this concept, I will acquire some sukriti and I will offer that sukriti for some person. This is not pure devotional service. This is not pure devotional service. There is no bargaining with the Lord, whether it's spiritual sukriti, material sukriti, nothing. There are two kinds of sukriti anyway. You can't trade off something with the Lord. No. That is not the idea. You're not trying to gain something and transfer that result to somebody else and all these things. Even if it is spiritual. This is all all these are concoctions. The point is, Prabhupada said, just try to please the Lord. We are only trying to please the Lord. That's all. The more you perform devotional service, the more you please the Lord, right? That is why you're chanting more.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So the only idea is, let me please the Lord. So you perform more devotional service to the Lord, so the Lord becomes more pleased. That's all is the idea.
I exactly didn't understand, why do we chant extra rounds then keeping somebody's health in, like we can just pray, right? Okay, if
No.
you so
You're performing additional devotional service, no.
okay, just keeping that in mind.
Yeah, you're performing additional devotional service. Of course, Prabhupada said 24 hours you have to chant. Okay. We are not on that platform. If you're chanting 24 hours, then nothing is needed. You're already doing it. Right?
Regarding that,
So pure devotees, what they just have to wish. That's all. For us, wishing alone is not enough. Because they are already on the platform of performing, they're constantly performing ever expanding devotional service. So they just have to wish, that's all. Just by their wishing, things can happen. But we are not on that platform.
regarding you please tell.
No, tell me.
Regarding that chanting 24 hours, actually I wanted to ask this, is it it should come spontaneously, right? Like it should not be forced, or it should be forced,
Pardon?
like chanting 24 hours or chanting while doing any work, it should come spontaneously or it should be forced? I mean, it should but initially we should try to force, like initially we try to do 16 rounds.
No. Prabhupada said, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti would lead to raganuga sadhana bhakti, no? So what is beginning involves effort, it becomes effortless.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Breathing
Thank
does not take effort, right? Breathing is
Yes.
effortless.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So like that, in the beginning, the Vaidhi means by regulation, you do it. Chant 16 rounds. But Prabhupada often say, why 16 rounds? Why not 64 rounds? So, but we are not able to do it, right? So, okay, do this much at least. And gradually we can increase it. And at one stage, you will just be chanting non-stop.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll stop here for today and we'll resume again next week. Thank you all for joining. Next week is what? 30th. Okay. I hope I may be in Rishikesh at the time. I'll let you know if yeah. If you're going to have the class or not. I'll inform you one day in advance.
Sure, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Vanchakal Patribhishra Kripa Sindhu Bevicha Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vishnebhyo Namo